at our next guest, because I'm now joined by former Conservative MP Anne Widdecombe, who is now, of course, a leading luminaire in the Reform Party with Richard Tice. Widders, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure. So, if the Reform Party needed that working class credibility, that red wall kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The red wall kind of dynamo that the party needed to drive it through. Is this the right man? Is this a canny appointment?
Yes, it's a very, very canny appointment, and it's terrific that Lee has decided to join us, because, as you say, he speaks for the red wall. And that is where Brexit got a huge number of its votes and an awful lot of its support from, as you will know. And therefore, it's right territory for reform, but we do need the right person. We need the person who speaks the language of the red wall, the sort of person that the red wall would trust. We've got him in the shape of Lee Anderson.
Do you think this will play out internally? He's a big character, he's got a big presence, and he's used to being the head honcho. Would he have to be kind of let to do his own devices, or can you see there being a potential situation where a few people within the party are rubbed the wrong way, Anne?
Oh, I don't think so. I think the one thing about the Reform Party, the refreshing change from the Tory party, that it isn't full of factions and divisions and people fighting for number one and all the rest of it. And I think we're all hoping that Lee will play a huge role, that as far as the Red Wall is concerned, that he'll be the face of reform in the Red Wall. None of us will have a problem with that.
And it's Chris Hope in the studio here with Martin. I just wondered what it was like to join a much smaller party like the Reform Party. I know you joined the Brexit Party back in the old days. And of course, you were well known and you built most of your life being a Tory MP and a Tory minister. How is it to join a much smaller party with less of the resource and name recognition factor?
The most difficult part of it is not leaving the party, which by then, of course, has completely let you down or you wouldn't be leaving it. But it is thinking of all the people who worked for you, for your party workers, for all the local workers, all those years being utterly loyal. And now you're turning around and you're saying to them, terribly sorry, I'm repudiating all of that. That is actually the most difficult thing of all. It's exciting to be joining a new party or a newish party. It's exciting to be joining a small party which can only grow, as opposed to being in a big party which can only shrink. It's not difficult, except, as I say, in terms of personal loyalties.
And one man is not an army. One man cannot win a war on his own. But there is talk of the Reform 9, at least. Richard Tice flashing his garter, may more follow. Do you think, and that could happen, and we reach this critical mass where the red wall really starts folding into reform?
Oh, I think it's more than possible, particularly now that we've got Lee Anderson. We've got somebody who speaks directly for them and who is trusted by them in the red wall. So, yes, I think it's very likely. Will we get more defections? We may. It doesn't follow that we take everybody who wants to defect. We're pretty choosy. But I would have thought it was very likely. I can't see the Tory party suddenly reviving. I think it's going to go on its current trajectory. And if it does, then a lot of people will be saying, well, hang on, can we rescue conservatism by going elsewhere?
Yeah. Well, Anne, you mentioned there the director of travel of the party. I wonder if you think whether you might see the crossover happen this summer, when you'll see that the Tory party, it goes into third place in the polls and Reform is second.
It's possible. I don't know whether it's probable, but it's certainly possible. Certainly what we'll be working towards. But I think, although quite obviously, and I see why this is, all the emphasis is on the Tory party, we need also to expose the inadequacies of Labour. And the person who's best placed to do that is indeed Lee Anderson, because he knows that party well, and his sympathies have lain there in the past.
And Anne, Lee Anderson, of course, is not a man who without controversy. He brings a bit of baggage to the party. He's been called every name under the sun: racist, Islamophobe, gammon, small-minded little Englander, you name it. He's been called a lot. Is any of that an issue, or do you think the voters, the electorate, Reform voters just don't care about any of this now? They see through it and see the bigger issues?
Oh, I think that's probably an issue for the Hampstead Liberals, but they're not part of the Reform Party, so I don't think we'll worry. I don't think it's an issue for ordinary people. In fact, all the feedback I've had, or certainly most of the feedback I've had, has been along the lines of, well, he's only said what people are thinking. And that's what people want from politicians. They want to feel that you understand how they feel and that you and they share a perspective. And that is how a lot of people think when they look at Lee Anderson.
OK, thank you for joining us. Anne Widdecombe, Lee Anderson, about as subtle as a brick to the head. Let's see if we can become a brick and a foundation stone for the Reform Party. Well, why don't now we hear from Shadow Paymaster General Jonathan Ashworth, who gives us his thoughts on Lee Anderson's defection to Reform UK a little earlier on today.
I think it reveals the utter chaos engulfing the Tory party, how the Tory government is utterly divided from top to bottom, and Rishi Sunak is frankly too weak to exert any authority. And a divided government simply cannot govern in the interest of the country, cannot make the changes that people who are paying more in tax and want to see the NHS fixed want to see. And I think what today will reinforce is that after 14 years of failure now, it's time for change.
And we can hear now from the residents of Ashfield who have given their thoughts on Lee Anderson's defection.
He's probably doing it to save his own bacon, to be honest, because the people around here would probably vote for reform. So that's probably all he is doing it. But while he looks like he wants to speak truth, I know several people have asked him awkward questions in meetings and then banned from the meetings all of a sudden, so it's pretty much the same as the others.
Do you think there should now be a by-election in Ashfield because they didn't vote for him as a Reform candidate, they did as a Conservative?
That's an awkward one, isn't it? Depends which. If I actually gave them monkeys, I'd probably say there should be a by-election. Seeing as I don't give them monkeys, I don't care.
Well, he's the only MP that speaks his mind that's true. I mean, you can't vote for Conservative anymore, and you can't vote for Labour, so he's done right.
You'll be voting for Lee Anderson?
Oh, definitely, no ifs and buts. He's the best MP that's in the Parliament at the moment.
Well, I mean, it's not my prerogative what Lee Anderson does, but I think that it would suit his views more than the Conservative Party, and he's tried the Labour Party already. So, yeah, I think it's for him. Maybe not for Ashfield, but yeah, I think that's his lane. I don't think I'd vote for him in whatever party he's in. I don't really like his views, but yeah, I can see why people would now. He's in the Reform Party. Yeah, I think it's time for change. Yeah, I do. I think that Ashfield's underfunded as it is, and hopefully any chance to stop that would be great. Yeah.
And how would that be stopped? With what kind of a party here in Ashfield?
I think a Labour Party would help, for the obvious reasons, really. Yeah, working class sort of area, and massively underfunded as we are. So.
Well, those are streets I know well. I campaigned there as a candidate against Lee Anderson, of course, in the 2019 election. My mum lives in Ashfield. I think one thing, Chris Hope, you get by talking to people like that, there are many, many people in many seats like Ashfield who think a lot more like Lee Anderson than they do his critics.
A point well made by Nigel Farage, who's the honorary president of Reform UK. He made very clear that, in fact, this outside the bubble, it's a big seismic moment. He hopes, and we're not going to find out what those people think in Ashfield in terms of actual by-election. There won't be one called. He's made clear he won't, even though Lee Anderson did sign up to a motion tabled by Anthony Mangal, a Tory MP, saying that if you switch sides in Parliament, there's an automatic by-election. That won't happen. The reasoning given by the party is it's like £500,000 to organise, and the election's around the corner. The election could be on May the 2nd, but I don't think so.
OK, superb.